In this video we see Mikhail Tal versus Bobby Fischer's game. This game was played in 1959 in Slovenia. This game was from candidates. So Mikhail Tal play with white pieces and Bobby Fischer play with black. So without wasting time, let's move to the game. So Tal starts with d4, knight to f6, c4, g6, king's Indian defense, knight to c3, bishop to g7, king's Indian defense normal variation, e4, d6, bishop to e2, and Bobby Fischer castles king side, knight to f3, e5, d5, knight b2, d7, bishop to g5, pin this knight, h6, bishop to h4, a6, cover this b5 square to prevent knight to b5, knight to d2, queen to e8, remove the pin of knight, and Tal castles king side, knight to h7. So Fischer want to move his pawn and open this rook's file to create attack on king. So Tal continue with b4, cover this c5 square to prevent knight to c5, knight to g5, f3, create space for bishop and also support this pawn, f5. So directly Fischer moves 2 steps. So Fischer want to open this rook's file, bishop to f2, queen to c7, rook to c1, knight to f6, c5. So if Fischer take this pawn, then bishop takes c5 comes, and Tal could create pressure on queen and rook. So Fischer didn't take this pawn and continue with bishop to d7, queen to c2, knight to h5, b5, f takes e4, knight takes e4, offer for knight exchange. So Fischer accept the offer, knight takes knight, f takes knight, knight to f4, and Fischer want to exchange his knight with bishop. So then Fischer could take this pawn. So Tal continue with c6 and pressure on bishop, queen to g5, and direct threat is checkmate. So Tal support with bishop to f3 and also decline the offer of exchange, b takes c6, d takes c6, and pressure on bishop. Fischer could move his bishop on h3 to create more pressure on g2. But Fischer continue with bishop to g4 and offer for bishop exchange. And also this pawn is pinned. So Tal has to exchange or support this bishop. So Tal exchange his bishop. Bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop. And again threat is checkmate. So Tal continue with bishop to e3 and support with his queen. So Fischer continue with a takes b5, but Tal didn't take this pawn and first exchange his bishop with dangerous knight. Bishop takes knight, e takes bishop, knight takes b5. So Fischer support with rook to f7. Tal taken advantage of queen to c4. So what a move by Tal. So Fischer continue with rook to c8 and support this pawn. Rook to f3. So Tal want to create battery of rook. Bishop to e5. Support this pawn. Rook c2 f1. King to g7. Remove the pin of rook because this is too dangerous for the game. a4. So Tal has clear pass pawn. Rook to a8 to stop this pawn. So Tal continue with king to h1, queen to g5, g3. So create pressure on pawn. But Fischer can't take this pawn because rook takes rook check, and after moving king you can see that rook to f8 check, and after rook takes rook check, and checkmate comes. And if king to g8, then also rook to f8 check, but this time double check from rook and a queen. So after moving king, checkmate. So Fischer can't take this pawn. So Fischer continue with rook to f8 to support this rook. And Tal continue with g takes f4 and create fork on and also open his g file. Bishop takes f4, knight to d4. So threat is clear and create fork on queen. So Fischer first move his queen on h4 and Tal take this bishop. Rook takes bishop and create pressure on queen. So Fischer accept the rook. If Fischer move his queen, then rook takes rook check, and after rook takes rook you can see that queen takes rook check and checkmate comes in few moves. So Fischer take this rook. Rook takes rook and knight to e6 and a water fork on rook. Fischer can't move his king on f7 because rook takes rook comes, and also Fischer would lose his queen and can't take this knight. So Fischer continue with king to h8 and Tal continue with queen to d4 check, and now king has only two options. But Fischer can't move his king because checkmate comes immediately. And if king to g8, then also checkmate comes. And if Fischer move this rook, then Fischer would lose his rook on f8. And also pressure on rook because this rook is pinned. So Fischer continue with this rook. Rook to f6, but this rook is pinned. So Tal take this rook with his knight and the threat is clear. Knight takes g6 and create fork on queen. So Fischer prevent with king to h7 and support this pawn. And Tal continue his attack. e5 pressure on rook. D takes e5 and Tal's final move. Queen to d7 check, and after queen to d7 check, Fischer resigned here. Because if rook to f7, then queen takes rook check, and after moving king, checkmate comes immediately. And if Fischer move his king, then also queen to d8 check, and Fischer can't move his king on g7 because knight to e6 comes and this rook is pinned. So if rook takes knight, then Fischer would lose his queen, but it's too late. Queen to f8 comes and the checkmate comes immediately. And if king to f7, then also checkmate comes. And also if king to h7, then queen takes c7 check, and you can see that checkmate comes. But if Fischer move his king on h7, then queen takes c7 check, and after moving king, queen to d7 check, and you can see that after a few checks c7 comes and Fischer can't stop this pawn. So after rook to f8, this pawn would promote and Fischer has no chance. Fischer has to resign in endgame. So after queen to d7 check, Fischer resigned here. If you like the game, then comment how the game was and subscribe for more games.